FTH 202 Revolvers. My name is Caleb Corville, and let's get started here. No ammunition at all, just a couple of side projects that I'm doing. And here's the bottom row of my extremely cluttered workspace. Before we get started, we're going to go ahead and go through the 8 cycles of the cycle of operations, or the 8 steps. Feeding, chambering, locking, firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting. We use our ejector rod for that. And then the next step would be cocking. The firearm is clear. Alright. Our next step is going to be removing this cylinder. Okay, and to do that, I'm just going to grab a screwdriver. Too big. Just right. Okay. It's nice deep grooves in these screws. Really like that. There's less chance of slipping and tearing up the finish. Gonna set that off to the yoke, screw, and plunger. Get that in frame RN1. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna take that plunger out. There's no reason to. Now I'm gonna go ahead and press in the thumb piece, or the cylinder release, and just go ahead and push forward on it. It should come out, right? Yeah, it'll come out. It is reverse threaded because of the direction the cylinder turns. Right? Inside the cylinder will turn like this, so it needs to constantly be tightening. Right? So, yeah. Pull that out. We have our the front of our plunger rod and spring assembly. I'm gonna set that off to the side. Now we have the rear of our plunger rod. This can fall right out. Oh, and there's a spring that goes inside of it. Gotta be careful with that, which I wasn't just now. So okay, next step right here, we have the bushing that holds in the yoke, which is still inside. And for this, I'm having trouble just pulling it out, but I found a slight workaround. Inside of here, you can see that there's a slight ridge in there, just past the spring. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this punch here, we're gonna go past it, carefully avoiding the spring, because the last thing you want to do is damage the spring inside of there. Okay, and then we're going to lightly tap on it until it pops through. And there we have it. You don't need to bang on it. Here is the yoke collar and the yoke assembly. Right here, the yoke itself and the spring. Gonna set that off to the side. Then I'm gonna place the collar back into the cylinder. Set that off to the side. Stripped cylinder. Okay, now moving on to the Revolver's frame, and/or side plate, that is. I'm gonna go ahead and get after these two screws, these two fasteners right here. remove them very carefully because I'm not trying to ruin the finish at all. Screw number 1. And I'm only working on one side of my mat. I want the other side of my mat with nothing but the parts. That way my hands aren't gonna go and, you know, make everything go flying. Okay, now for the side plate, notice how you have really tight seams in here, even down in here. You don't want to pry on that because contrary to popular belief, metal bends, and once it does bend, it's very hard to bend back without ruining the finish that's on the firearm. So prying is not a good option. Instead, we bang on it with the wrong tool, and it's much better for the firearm. The only problem with it is if you bang too hard, you can kind of make a lot of the assemblies inside pop out. So we're just going to show. Look. You see how it's starting to pop up above those edges? There we go. Keep going. And we're free. Just a few good taps. Yep. You see, like, the inside edge of the actual plate is slightly beveled. See if it'll focus. Slightly beveled. Don't know if you could see that. Yeah, maybe right there. It's a good angle. Slightly beveled so that it can return to fitment much easier. If it weren't beveled, it'd be impossible to return. Okay. Now we have the internals of the firearm. Here we go. Here is the X-ray view of a double action revolver. So we have the hand here, which whenever you engage the hammer, the hand will rotate the cylinder, in this instance counterclockwise, because that hand goes up and it pushes along, pushes along these little things here. Right? Yeah, it pushes along that little star pattern. Okay. Then you have the, sorry, I'm getting camera in lens. Alright. The double action sear and the sear. Okay. So double action sear, meaning if you see this right here as I kind of pull on the trigger, it goes up, engages the double action sear, and it forces the hammer back. Okay. Now, watch what happens whenever I pull the hammer back. The hammer's, this sear surface engages the trigger. Alright. Now my thumb piece isn't depressed, so I can't go completely back just yet. Especially with only one hand. But alright, let me try. Right. And then, yeah. So, regardless if you're pulling the hammer back or the trigger, one of the sear surfaces is going to get engaged, and that's the beauty of a double action. You don't have to pull the hammer back before you push back on the thumb piece, rotate the hammer down and lock it. And as you can see, there's a small eyelet right here that just reared its head. Now I'm going to place this inside of that eyelet. Okay, and now that it is through to the other side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decock. Very carefully. Okay, and then remove it. And there we have the main spring assembly. Set that off to the side. Our next one is going to be this right here. The trigger spring assembly. Just wanted to make sure I was quoting the manual. That up out of the way. And you can see, well, maybe. Yeah, you can see right here in the back, there's a small hole that just popped up. I'm going to go ahead and stick my handy dandy tool down in there. It's completely protruding from the other side, keeping tension on that spring, allowing the part to float. Okay. Trigger spring assembly removed. Carefully and intact. Okay, now I can go ahead and start pulling a couple of things out of here. One of which is going to go ahead. It's going to be the cylinder stop. I'm going to go ahead and take the cylinder stop out. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm going to take the trigger out. I have to move the cylinder stop to do that. I don't like to actually get a hold of the cylinder stop up here. I mean, you probably can't see from all the way down there. Okay. Let me move you down a little bit. So, excuse my video making skills. I'm not a content creator. What is going on here? Okay. And then we have the trigger, or the bow. See that? And that is where the hand pin and handspring go, right in here in that back little hole. And on top of here, the cylinder stop sits inside. And that's how it's able to disappear below the surface. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the cylinder stop out. Okay. Cylinder stop. Now the hammer's next. And here we have the transfer bar. We have partial strip. Let me go ahead and just pull the fire pin out. Here's a firing pin. Next piece is going to be the thumb piece. We're going to get that off, and then we will have a stripped revolver. With finely finished firearms, you want to make sure that you get the screwdriver head inside of that groove. So if you have to, get it in there and push down in. And if you have the wrong size, change to the right size. It's important to get yourself a good set of screwdrivers for this. You don't want a bunch of scratch marks all over your piece. You know, just from working on your firearm. You have scratch marks on your piece from actually using it out in the field, that's one thing. But there we go. I'm going to go put my thumb over the spring here. I'm going to get a flat edge underneath, and I'm going to pry. I'm going to hold down with my thumb. Then I'm going to lift, all the while keeping my thumb over that spring. Why? Because springs like to jump. That is the thumb piece assembly. Thumb piece assembly. Okay. And here we have a stripped Taurus 856. It's not a bad looking little firearm. I'm gonna pause you. And thank you for watching. I hope I covered all of the material required in the video. This is the third time making it. Just trying to make sure that I did it correct. Yeah, well, again, thank you for watching, and have a good day. I'm going to put this back together.